folks, we're going to go ahead and get started in the interest of trying to stay on track and stay on time. We really appreciate you all being here tonight. And we know that getting out here after work is tough, so we probably will have a few more stragglers coming in. But my name is Sabrina Hauser-Amaya, and I represent, what is our name today? Friends of Dry Canal Creek, Stockbridge Alumni of Vulcan Quarry, or Protect the Hill Country Environment, which is going to soon be our new 501c4 name. Can everybody in the back hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So again, tonight is going to be specifically designed to address the next phase of the TCQ air permitting process. And it heavily involves you all. Now, if you recall, when we learned about this approximately a year ago, it's hard to believe, we went through a process of public commenting. And you could either do that online, or you could do that by sending letters in. But you went out there and you made public comments as to why this was a bad idea. And you were able to cite anything that you wished to cite at the time. So this is going to be very similar, but a little more detailed. And it's going to be basically our last bite at the apple. And it's part of the TCEQ process. Before I get long and involved, I just want to say special thanks to all the volunteers that came tonight to help set up chairs, and thank you. And Don and Liz and staff come out, and it takes a lot of work to get this put on, as you all can imagine. So tonight is specifically to talk about TCEQ's path to the air permit decision. And one of the things that I hear all the time is, why are we pursuing this? Because I think I have to aim it this way. Well, it worked a minute ago. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is what we hear a lot of. And I know in the back of our heads, we all may be thinking that as well. But if we all thought it was a done deal, we wouldn't be here tonight. We would have all folded up tents a long time ago. As far as we are concerned, it's not a done deal. And we really want you all to kind of grasp that mantra and to share it with your neighbors and your friends and your spouses that may say it's a done deal, why are you making the effort? If we do not make the effort to strike this down or mitigate it in some way, as you all have been seeing back in the back, we will be encircled by quarries. So we're going to be quarry mecca unless we start taking a stand against what is happening in our beautiful hill country. So the mantra tonight is, it's not a done deal, all right? So the other thing I will say is this slideshow will be available on the website once David gets back to his office, probably tomorrow or Monday. So don't worry about taking copious notes. It will all be on the website. The other thing that is in your chairs are handouts that we are going to specifically talk about tonight. So you're going to have a couple of handouts. One that looks like this. This is going to be very important because this is going to give you the example of how you are going to file for the contested case hearing and to name yourself as an affected party. This is a sample of what this is going to look like. The other thing is a front and back. Looks like this. And this is straight out of the application showing what the boundaries of the quarry, where the rock crusher is going to be placed. We'll get into this in detail. And the ingress and egress off of 3009. These are going to be very important markers when we get to discussing how do you file for an affected person status and contested case. So that's why these are included. They're going to be very important to how you develop your case. The The other two handouts are going to be a front and back. One's going to be a flow chart. One is going to look like this. These are going to be examples of how the process works. And one is also an example of an exact, what we call response to comments. What you're going to be reading here is the response to comments from the Anderson Columbia quarry that they are fighting right now in a contested case hearing as we speak. So this is directly from their response to comments. So you can see what and how how TCEQ responds. So we're going to talk about a few acronyms. We're going to talk about where we are today, what the next steps are going to be. We're going to briefly touch on what a SOA preliminary hearing is and why it is very important that when you get notice of that SOA preliminary hearing, you must go to that hearing. If you do not show up, you have waived your right to be in a contested case hearing and be named an affected party. So it's going to be very important that when you get that notice, you've got to show. We're going to talk a little bit about legal representation and what the call to actions are. There's going to be a call to action for you all specifically, but there's call to action for our group to continually assist you all in making sure that you make the best case possible to be named an affected party. And that's going to be very, very important. We have definitions that will be at the end of the presentation. I'm not going to spend a great amount of time, but when we post the presentation, they will be there so that when you hear an acronym, you go, oh, I now know what RTC means. And then we're going to obviously leave time for questions and answers. Okay, so here's some brief acronyms. You're going to hear me using these over and over and over again, in part because this is what TCQ uses. These are their acronyms. So we're going to be talking specifically tonight about response to comments, a direct referral, a contested case hearing, an affected person or affected party, a preliminary hearing, what the State Office of Administrative Hearings does, what the Administrative Law Judge does, and the Office of Public Interest Counsel. Those are the TCEQ buzzwords that you will read throughout the response to comments and the correspondence that you will be getting from TCEQ. So we're going to jump right on in. One of the things that I would caution you all is when we were going through this presentation last night, all of us, and we've been in this for over a year, all of us kind of take a step back and we have to remember to breathe because this looks just so overwhelming. Our job tonight is to give you the facts, take that anxiety down for you, and show you how you can do this and do a great job at it. So if you kind of start feeling overwhelmed and go, oh gosh, this is way too much work, it's a done deal. If you kind of start feeling that way, let us help you, because that's really what we want, is to make sure that there is as many people at the table when the commissioners have to decide who is going to be an affected party. So, where are we now? Okay, one of the things, as of yesterday, our status for the RTC referral is in legal, right here. This whole page shows the exact steps that this permit has taken from the beginning of time. You can access this, and I've given you the link in the presentation how to do this. You can access this every day. I look at this probably 3 times a day to make sure that this hasn't changed. Because the minute the RTC is decided upon, there is going to be a line added here that will say RTC mailed. And that's when we're going to know that trigger has been pulled. So this tells you the entire scope of every step of this permit along the way. So as of last night, and we were here, for our presentation today, we're going to act as if the RTC was mailed today. And the reason I'm doing that is to give you dates so that you can say, oh, if it was mailed today, then by September 22nd, my presentation for contested case hearing and affected party status has to be turned into TCEQ. So we picked a date, and we know that it's going to get pushed out, but we picked a date so that you all can have the opportunity to see what the time frames are. So if today it was mailed out, we will have 30 days, calendar days, to formulate a contested case and affected party status document for each person in your household. That has to be delivered, either uploaded, mailed, faxed to TCEQ so that they have it in their hot little hands, and that for you all to be considered in the process. So September 22nd would be the due date. There is going to be the template for making the contested case hearing request and the affected party request. That is the first handout I showed you. And we're going to make that template available for you online, so you don't have to go recreate anything. You're just going to fill in the blanks. Then, after they get all of our comments, they take all those comments and they take them to the TCEQ commissioners, of which there are 3 appointed by the governor. Those commissioners are the ones that make the sole decision whether or not the contested case hearing occurs. So a simple yes or no. We know that it's going for contested case. We've already been informed of that. The secondary decision that the commissioners make is who is going to be an affected party. That is why you taking the time to complete the document is so important, because they are weighing that decision based on what you submit, okay? The final thing the commissioners will do is they will make some decisions and refer to SOA the distinct issues that are going to be considered or reconsidered in the case. So, very powerful things are happening at the commissioner base, and that is why it is very important that we and every single person in this room and all your neighbors and all your friends submit for contested case and affected party, because strength in numbers. Around February, we believe will be the SOA preliminary hearing. What that simply is a hearing similar to the public meeting that we attended in March, and they make the decision as to who is affected party. If you are denied affected party status, you get the opportunity to go and ask for reconsideration and present your case. They will either decide right then and there that you are or are not. They will also set forth the timeline for the contested case hearing to occur. Once it reaches this, by statute, they must render a decision in 180 days, if not sooner. So it is fast-tracked. So preliminary hearing here, it goes then to the next steps of lawyers and expert witnesses and depositions and affidavits and all those kinds of things. And then we have another hearing called a contested case hearing. And that is where we go back up to Austin, usually, and you sit in front of the commissioners again, and the case is, well, not in front of the commissioners, excuse me, it is in front of the administrative law judge. That's where it's basically a civil proceeding, and you're going to hear all the presentation and the pros and the cons from each side batted back and forth. So it's basically like a jury trial, but the jury is that administrative law judge. So a judge will then render a decision on or about August 2nd, so a year from now, and then so makes the recommendations to the commissioners, and the commissioners either fully accept, deny, or split the difference and agree somewhere in the middle. So not to belabor the time frame, it looks like you've got a lot of time to do something, but we really, really do not. Because once that RTC hits, we've got a 30-day window to defend for ourselves one more time. Okay, so in your handouts is this flow chart. And I'm going to go through this because, and try to simplify it as much as possible. But there is two potential directions this could take. And in doing so, it fast-tracked the decision-making process for everyone. So, at the very top, where it says applicant requests direct referral, I wish there was one thing for everything. I've got two things here. Which one is in my hand? So, this is applicant request direct referral. Let me tell you what a direct referral is. A direct referral is when the applicant, in this case Vulcan, or the executive director says, I want this case to go directly to contest a case in SOA. The applicant or the executive director can make that decision outright. There are some pros and cons to that. I'm not going to get into those, but depending on which direction happens, the process changes slightly. So remember those key dates in the previous slide I just gave you. That is going to be right here. So the applicant does not request a direct referral from SOA. So we're just going to continue as we discussed earlier. So let's go to those details. The RTC gives the commenters option to file for a contested case hearing and an affected party status. We get 30 days to respond. So assuming that RTC came out today, we would have till September 22nd to get our filings in. Got it? A commissioner's hearing will occur around Thanksgiving. They decide whether or not the contested case hearing is going to occur, yes or no. They will name the persons who are deemed affected parties, and they will decide the relevant issues for SOA. So this is